Hey, Haribo, Hare Krishna, Har Har Mahadev. How is everybody doing?
Here we are again.
Namaste. So, yeah, I think what we'll do now is I'll tell the story of Rahu and Ketu and how that's all connected and why eclipses happen, more or less. It's got its roots in that as well.
This is the back to the beginning of time, right?
Yeah,
The
well, more or
story of the
less, like along,
beginning.
yeah. In the beginning, there was the milk and the.
But this is like Satya Yuga.
Yeah, well,
Satya
yeah, it
Yuga.
was a long, long, long time ago. Every now and then, things, it's so long ago that we can't even figure it out.
So it's like even before Nrsimha Day,
Oh, yeah.
even
Well,
before.
Bali is actually the grandson of Prahlad, and he features in that version of the story and Bhagavatam.
So it's
But
after.
they don't mention him in Mahabharata, so you get different versions. That's what happens in Puranas.
Okay, so but it's supposed to be after or before Nrsimha Day?
Technically after, but I think it happens you gotta understand that yugas happen in a certain cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it happens every chatur,
Okay.
or at least every day of Brahma, something like that.
Because in the movie Hari Darshan, they put it like as before,
Right, right,
It's
right.
like because Hiranyaksha
Mhm.
gets killed in this, right? Isn't it? Has to do with that? Not
This
his,
Rahu and Ketu.
yeah, but all right, I'm mixing up things.
Yeah, this
Okay.
happens. This happens after the whole. I mean, if you're going by the Bhagavatam, right?
Okay.
It happens after. Like if you're reading, it happens in the eighth canto. They have the milk churning.
So
Bali
it's
Maharaj is
after
there.
all that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. There's that scene
Where they're churning,
where they're
the.
pulling the
Yeah,
serpent.
they're churning.
Okay.
So what happens was, well, at least I'll stick to the Mahabharata. I guess in that one, who knows what happened. I mean, the Mahabharata version doesn't mention Bali, but it could happen in another yuga. See, that's the thing. When you have Puranas, it's like
It's circular,
the
yeah. I mean,
timeline is like,
I
so
know. So
there's
it's like, it's like me trying to attempt to line it up, but it's
who knows? I mean, some of these things could happen in the future
it
for
could
all
be,
we
I know,
know.
and the idea is that it's happening right now, like also. Like,
Right,
this is an
exactly.
ongoing thing.
Past, present,
So
future,
and we
and
see
within, and that's the other thing, within and without
right.
as well.
So it is
So
happening
it's a
because look at your
symbolism.
life.
Look
It's
at your
happening
life.
right now.
We're getting
Like,
churned.
exactly. This is an
The
ongoing thing.
forces, that's the neat thing about.
I'm gonna do the watch party thing.
Okay, and that's the neat thing about these stories is they have an external thing and an internal thing. And in this world, we tend to think that if something's not one thing, it's the opposite, right? But these things, they can be both at the same time or none at all. And that's the way that this stuff works. So basically what happened was, the way it talks about in Mahabharata is that in order to churn the nectar, the two groups of beings, the devas and the asuras, right, or the gods and the demons, they decided to go for a great work which would produce amrita, or the nectar of immortality, right? So they found this giant gold mountain and they brought it to the ocean of milk to act as a churning rod. And they put it in this giant ocean and they had Vasuki, which is the king of the serpents. Now, his older brother is Anantasesha, actually. And Anantasesha was going to be the king, but he did tapasya because he wanted to be, because he was a devotee. And he did tapasya because he wanted to be the bed of Vishnu. So he renounced his kingdom. So Vasuki was made the king.
Mm.
So then Vasuki was this huge serpent. It's kind of like there's in the Viking mythology, or I guess you could say Kata. They have this Midgard serpent, which is a giant serpent like Vasuki, which wraps around the world, and it basically Vasuki almost serves as the same function. So he came, and they wrapped him around the giant churning rod, and then the devas. There was two sides. There was his mouth and head, and there was his tail. So the thing is that the Devas, they said, oh, we'll take his tail. And the Asuras, they took his head because the top of something is more auspicious than the bottom. But unfortunately, Vasuki was a poison serpent, and they breathe fire. And what it is that their venom is so toxic that when it gets mixed with the air, it actually ignites on fire. That's how virile their poison is. So they were churning him, and so he's breathing fire. And so the whole mountain actually caught on fire. And there's all kinds of herbs and stuff on the mountain, and animals and everything. And they all burned. And then they went into the milk ocean. And then they were churning all the ashes from all the creatures on the mountain and all the plants went into the thing, and they churned it. And then it created all that churning. It's because you're taking the herbs and the different ingredients. It's like making I guess like Ayurvedic medicine or something, right? So they churned it, and they all these things mixed together, and then it created the Hahaya poison, which is this poison that emitted out of the ocean, and everyone was scared. So then Shiva came and he drank the poison, and he kept it in his neck. He didn't swallow it, and he just left it he kept it in one place. I guess I kind of like breathing and not breathing out. Or anyway, so what he did was then his neck became blue, and then he became Nilakanta. That's one of his names, which means blue neck. Mm-hmm. But while he was drinking, some of the poison fell out of his mouth, and some little critters were there, and they decided they wanted some of it. So they were all the poisonous creatures, like scorpions and spiders and snakes and all that. They got their venom.
So this is the story of where a lot of nature comes from.
Yeah, well. Like so you can see, like, if you look in the sky at night, they have the Milky Way, right? They have the Milky Way, and we say Milk Ocean, and they have the Milky Way.
Right.
Like, people are seeing things, and they're making, So the thing is that there's this churning between good and evil. The cosmic forces are churning the universe and producing all kinds of different things that are going on. And that's a way of explaining what's going on in the world as well. But it also has a kind of, these are ways. Poetry is a very unique ability to convey emotional knowledge through, and then it's a way you can also safeguard it from over-interpretation. You see, if you become too much of a literalist and too much of a religion of the book, what happens is you suffer from disassociation, and you don't connect yourself to what's being told. But if you speak something in poetry, and it's using symbology, what you're supposed to do with these stories is incorporate it into yourself and the world around you in a metaphorical and metaphysical way. And then you become part of the story. That's its essence, and that's its truth. But if you become too much of a literalist, you miss out on that. It can be talking about a historical thing, but the thing is, if that's all you think its value is, then you're missing out on the fact that this is talking about something. It's trying to explain the world through poetry in an aesthetic sense, and that's its real purpose. And so that's what you're doing with these stories. They're trying to convey, in an aesthetic sense, something that you can try and apply in your life and look at the world. Because if you see, there's these different forces of good and evil, and they fight each other, and it churns the world, and it produces all kinds of different things, nectar and poison, right? Sukha and dukkha. That's the nature of the material world, is sukha and dukkha. Mm-hmm. So they make the amrita and they make the poison, So then Guru Baba Shiva, he takes all the poison away. So it's trying to tell a story. Right. It's trying to make something so that you understand what's going on.
It's actually pretty fabulous.
So then what's going on, then Shiva, he drank all the poison. And so all these little critters, they got the poison. And then after that was done, then beautiful things came out of the ocean. Beautiful girls, apsaras, came out of the ocean. The moon came out of the ocean. what happened was Soma was a deity, but he didn't have the moon planet until the moon came out of the ocean.
What about the other planets?
Well, they came.
They were there.
Yeah,
already.
The moon came later.
So the other planets were already in place, but the moon wasn't until that.
Yeah, there's a few stories about how all that happened. I'll get into that actually if you want. Because there's two versions of it. There's two ways of looking at it. Either because Shiva wears a moon on his head. Now we don't know if that's the original moon, or because what happened was when the moon god has 27 wives, which are the nakshatras, and he favored Rohini, and he would always stay there and he wouldn't move. And Jeshta got mad because she's the eldest, and she was jealous. And Scorpios get jealous.
This is after this.
This is after this.
Once they're already in place.
Could be after, or maybe anyway. So she complained to her father Daksha. So Daksha got mad at Chandra and he said, "I gave you all these daughters of mine, but you only spend time with one and you neglect the other ones." So he cursed him that he'd be sick. He said, "You're too proud of your glow. You're so handsome. So I make you sick, and then you'll lose the glow." So the moon started to become dim, and he started to shrink, and he got sick. So the moon started to get black, and it got darker and darker and darker and darker and darker. And when it was all, so the Chandra became very scared. So he went to Udupi, and he did tapasya for Shiva. There's a deity of Shiva there that's supposed to be extremely ancient. It's called Chandramalishwar. Chandra wears the moon in his head. So this is the deity that he worshipped.
Wow.
And what happened was, because Shiva gets pleased fast, right? He needed to do it because the moon was shrinking day by day, and finally it was the 14th day, and it was almost gone. But then Shiva came. And he said, "Okay, I will heal your problem. But to keep you humble, after you'll lose everything, and then it'll grow again. But then it'll shrink again, and then it'll grow again. And that will keep you humble, and so you can spend time with all the girls." So that explains why the moon shrinks and grows.
So previous to that, he was doing the rotation, but he was just staying longer in Rohini?
He didn't want, yeah.
So he was going around like the rest of the planets.
Yeah, but he would spend most of his time in Rohini.
So then that's when the system was...
Yeah, so then Daksha made him, and so then the moon shrinks and it grows.
And it's where it's,
it also travels on a set pattern, so that,
Right.
And so, and then you can see, right, this is a way of explaining certain metaphysical things of astrology as well. So the thing is the moon, the moon can be over sensuous, and then it leads to problems.
Right.
And if you can keep your mind humble, then it makes it so everything's in balance.
Yes, and also like important to remember that we're not always on. It's not always like a go time. Sometimes it's retreat time and give yourself time to rebuild, and just like the moon does.
Yeah, exactly. So that's one of the. So the story is that some stories say that when that happened, the moon just decided to stay. He was so scared that and that's the original moon that's on Shiva's head. And so maybe the moon came out. That was the moon that came out of the ocean is the one that after the moon stuck on Shiva's head, then he got a new one. And then that's up there. And then some people say that after that happened, Vishnu made a new moon and stuck it up there. So it's a second moon that we got.
Some people say that the moon is fake.
Yeah, I know.
Some people say that the moon is man-made.
Well, maybe it's demigod made.
Right.
So that might explain. Yeah. That might explain why they say that.
Right.
Because maybe it is just a right.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like, in astrology, this is what we're looking at primarily, at least in Vedic astrology. The first thing, as some people say this, the innermost part of ourselves. They both matter, moon and sun, obviously, but the moon is the innermost part of ourselves. It's the part of us that interacts with other people. It's the first thing that you want to look at as far as relationships goes, and it's potentially fake. you know. It's or man-made, not fake. You know, obviously
Mm-hmm.
it's there. It's a real thing, but it's like it feels like the realest thing, but it doesn't go with us in our ultimate destination. You know, there's that
Yeah.
inherent lesson in everything
Right.
that you just
Exactly.
said, and then that whole, you know, and what we know about the moon. You know, this is like so real right now. Like the moon is like your glasses or like the windshield. It's like what you look out of. It's our you know, filters. You know, it's like who we can't help but be in this manifestation is the moon side of us. Like that's why
It's the day-to-day thing you run into.
that too. You know, but even this is a made up thing or something that's not permanent.
Right,
It's not a
exactly. It's
permanent
not
thing.
permanent. The moon is always fluctuating, and also it's not really actually the original moon. And so it's like you said, and also because the thing is that the soul is eternal, but the mind isn't.
Right.
And when you come face to face with death, then the mind goes ballistic because it realizes it's going to finish. And really, the fear of death is just the fear that's produced because the mind realizes that it's not immortal.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
So all this stuff is packed in very densely with these stories,
right.
you know, and learning how to like drink that nectar and apply it in your life, you know, is very good. And unfortunately, a lot of the literalists, they miss out on that whole business. You know, they don't realize that the stories are supposed to be heard and brought in
and
like
make
that.
It yours.
Make it your story.
Make it yours.
Make it yours.
See how you're a part of it. See how it applies in your life.
And the world, yeah, in your life, in the world. Make it part of your life.
Even who are your friends in the story? Who do you feel are your friends? You know,
exactly.
Who do you feel akin to? Who do you feel is playing in your life, is influencing you, or that you can identify with? Is it's very fun actually. You know? I mean, maybe not everybody gets such a kick out of it like we do, but
oh no, you just watch.
It's good stuff.
We're gonna turn this into movies and TV shows and video games, and it's just gonna blow up.
The delivery, you know, and to expand upon.
Yeah.
And you know, we're just getting started in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
So the moon came up. There was different things. There was a horse with 8 legs. And the funny thing is, in Norse mythology, they have a horse named Sleipnir with 8 legs. And the horse in the Vedic is Uchai. He ended up becoming Indra took him as his horse. Mm-hmm. Then Airavata, the elephant with 4 tusks, came out. Different gems they called it. They came out of the churning. And then Lakshmi came out. And there's a mantra called the Indra Krit Mahalakshmi Stotram, because Indra and all the devas said this prayer so that she would come towards them and bring fortune to the gods, you see. Mm-hmm. And then she came over there, and then they handed her over to Vishnu. And that's also a very important lesson to understand. Because the Devi, you know, you can say, oh, I want the Devi, I want the good fortune. Right. But then if you keep her for herself, she's going to leave. Yeah. But what they did was they said, okay, come here, Devi, come here. And it's also using, see, the thing is, people say, oh, money is evil, right? Power is evil, all these things. They're not evil. They're evil if you try and grab hold of them. But it's just like Ravana stole Sita Ma and tried to keep her for himself. But Hanuman came and said that he tried to bring her back. It's the same thing. When you understand that Lakshmi isn't yours to keep, then, and you can just pass her over to her real master, then you get all the good fortune and all the bhakti at the same time. Mukti.
Lakshmi wants to serve Vishnu. Or that's, you know, this is what she's there for. Like, this is her purpose. Lakshmi meaning beauty, fortune, luxury, everything that we enjoy, you know. Right. So that's where she wants to go. That's where she's gonna go. And if we're serving, then she wants to help us serve. That's a fact. Yeah. You know.
And the thing is that if you, and I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but she's a Devi, okay? And if you're too desperate, they don't want to pay attention to you.
Right, there's the play, the interpersonal play is there. It doesn't stop in our, everyday lives. This is where it actually matters.
If you're too
most.
desperate for the money, she's not want to pay attention to you.
Yeah. You gotta be confident and know that it's expectation. Be expected. Because why? How can you expect it? How can you expect Lakshmi to participate in your life by doing the thing that she wants to do?
Exactly.
She wants to do. So, of course, there's rich people out there doing demoniac, horrible things, but
they're detached. That's the thing.
That's also
they're detached. Every single one of these people. Do you think if they're using the secret, they assume that money is coming.
Right. So
they're not chasing.
Right.
They're not chasing after Devi. They keep her. That's the wrong thing.
Right.
But how they get her is not wrong.
Right. So you get what you expect to get. So if you expect if you expect to do, evil things because that's your nature or whatever, and that you're going to get money, and I mean, like I can't, nothing I can say is going to change that. Obviously, nothing, right?
Right. Yeah.
But for probably anybody watching this, really, to expect good things, you got to do good things. Got to be part of something good and see your life as part of something good. And that's not, good meaning for you, what you really think is good, but what is really aligning you with your purpose, not
exactly, your purpose.
The purpose, not what other people say is your purpose, not what the temple or the society or the community or the public or your job or whoever says is the right thing. Is what we really get to know is the right thing for us as individuals.
Exactly. That is finding our purpose. So the Devas, they drew Lakshmi to them, and then they gave her to Vishnu, and then she married Vishnu. And so then at that point, Dhanavantari came out of the churning with the nectar of immortality. So then the Devas and the Asuras were ready to fight for it, and they were going to go to war. And then Mohini Murti took the pot, and she said, "I'll divide it up." She said, "Let me choose who to divide it up for." Now, Mohini Murti is a avatar of Vishnu, and is the most beautiful form, most beautiful woman form.
Yeah, it's like imagine how beautiful Krishna is as a male. Krishna wants to be a woman. Out of this world beauty. They were all dumbfounded. They
were totally dumbfounded, and so correct me if I'm wrong, but Mohini Murti, tell me what she said to everybody.
Well, when she was gonna pass it out, she told them not to trust her. So even she said, "Don't trust me. You shouldn't trust me." So she's passing it around because they want to make sure, the demons want to make sure that they're gonna get it, Asuras, whatever. They want to make sure that they're gonna get it too. And she said, "Yeah, I got you, but don't trust me." She even said that. So this is like another parallel to life, It's like if we really see that which we shouldn't trust is letting us know not to trust it. The message is there. I mean, of course, this is Krishna. But everything applies. Like we think it's separate. Even my mind wants to. But like for a second, I want to explain. And this is people. We have this tendency, like but that was Krishna. We're something else. No. The point is that's within us. That same thing is happening locally.
Yeah, and within us and in our life too. Because the thing is that this is what they talk about when they talk about fatal temptation. You know what I mean? It's like sometimes the most dangerous things look the most beautiful or most appealing. You know what I mean? And that's also what's going on. She's like, you put all of your energy, all of that stuff into something, and it's like is it really going to last? Is it
Right.
really worth all of that stuff that I put into it?
That's the biggest thing. That's where we can see for ourselves. That's where it becomes self-explanatory, or yeah, where it becomes we can see the results. We've tried it. None of us are a stranger to that.
Yeah, we tried. We thinking, oh, this will give me happiness, or this will give me, and I just put all my stuff into this, and it's pour nectar somewhere else. Because that's the carnal demon nature, is it wants to own and wants to, oh yeah, I want to enjoy this thing. And the material world takes full advantage of that. It's like, oh sure, you want to here, hold the carrot, like, just in front of you,
right.
And it gets you running along, That's just how it is.
Yeah.
And so she was there, and she was spread. So there was a demon named Rahu Ketu. His name was, I think his name was Rahu. I think he was just Rahu. But then he got separated, so the head was called Rahu and the tail was
I think
called.
it's another name.
Oh.
Anyway, go ahead.
So he's separated. Well, anyway, he understood what was going on. He was tricky because he was the master of magic.
I'm looking it up.
He was the master of illusions. Rahu?
Yeah.
He was the master of illusions. So the thing is that while she was doing that thing, he could see through her tricks. So he decided that I'm going to sneak over there. And so he took on a deva form, because the suras are a different species than the devas. They look differently. So he changed his thing. They're cousins, but they look different. So he changed the way that he was, and he hid between the sun and the moon. Swarbanu. Okay. Mm-hmm. There you go. Mm-hmm. So he hid between the sun and the moon. And Mohini was going around passing the nectar out. Mm-hmm. And then came to his turn, and but the sun and the moon, they pointed him out. They said, he's a demon. So he had the nectar, and it was going down his throat, but she cut his head off with the Sudarshan. So the thing is, because he had taken the Amrit, then he became immortal, so he didn't die. So his head became Rahu, and the tail became Ketu. So that's how that all happened. Now, the thing is, and this is a question, what does it say in the scripture if somebody gets killed by Vishnu? What happens to them?
Get liberated.
So, even though he wasn't technically killed, he was killed. So he actually got moksha at that time. So he's actually a devotee.
Do all the other planets have moksha, right?
No,
they don't.
He's alive and moksha at the same time.
So the other planet. Okay. So yeah,
they're just devas. Yeah, he's very special. Yeah.
About Rahu Ketu. So that also is very translatable to what Rahu Ketu is in our everyday life.
Yeah.
It's like this part of us. It's the unseen part of us. So like even in the sky, it's not a body. It's an empty space. It's like that's an empty space, and when that space lines up with the sun and the moon, it creates this effect. So it's also like it doesn't have a day of the week. It doesn't have a chakra. They don't. Rahu Ketu don't have days of the week. They don't have chakras. It's the unembodied self, basically. But it's like that part where it's like as far as our charts go and how we apply this personally is the sign nakshatra house that Rahu Ketu are in shows us kind of our gripe with life, the part of life that we're going to continuously be dealing with, but at the same time it's very much central to our path. It's not like, oh, you could just ignore that part and focus on
Right.
your sun or whatever. No. It's impossible. Like it will pull you in. It has that, that kind of, symbolized the serpent. It's like the serpent
The
within.
dragon. In Western
dragon,
astrology, they call it the
the
dragon.
Yeah. So this is like the inner, the Kundalini. This is the innermost part of us in a lot of ways. It's representing this part of us that is knowing previous things, even if we cannot like put it into words. Ketu is past life. Rahu is this life. What we need to do in this life, but always Rahu and Ketu are exactly opposite spots. So this gives us clues to how we're pulling from something very opposite to do something in this life. There's always this kind of polarities, and the duality is also very present with this. It really shows us how we gotta kick back one thing to go forward in the other, even if we don't like it.
Well, I've always seen that Rahu and Ketu is I always say Ketu's where you're coming from and Rahu's where you're going.
Yeah. So Rahu shows where we are immature, curious, sometimes fake. Fake in the sense of, because of that same immaturity and curiosity, we'll like want, but we have to do that thing. The Rahu is that impulse of the thing that we have to do. Anybody who's been in a Rahu period, you already know, like that's that like mindless push for something that you can't even explain why you have to do this thing. So Rahu is that force, and it's really wanting to take us where we got to go. It's so deciphering that, and making an initiative to participate within that is really helpful. It's really like, and again, like we said in the last video, this right now, because today the moon is in Mula. We're leading up to the eclipse, which is what we're talking about right now. There's really an opening for this internal digging, for this internal healing, to really connect our lives with the divine, and be ready for whatever the next thing is, the ascension, the revolution, to be ready.
The big shift.
The big shift.
Things are going to shift.
There's going to be a paradigm shift. It's not a joke. Like, it's like, just, okay, another thing to mention, that is every 18 year thing. Yeah. So the last time that Rahu and Ketu were in this position, it's an 18-month thing. So it started like March, so it goes in from 18 months from this March.
Right.
Where it's going to be in these particular signs. The last time they were in these particular signs, which is Gemini and Sagittarius, and previous to that was AIDS. 18 years before that.
And also they developed the internet.
That was another thing. So, and then previous to that was the assassination of JFK, and previous to that was the bombing of Hiroshima. So the significance of those dates, going back 18 years, 18 years, 18 years, 18 and a half. This is, that's actually how long it takes to exit and then re-enter. So is that every American, it's very significant to the American chart. It's significant globally, but it's significant to the American chart, which you can see by those dates, because most Americans will think of those dates as times where everything changed in one way or another, like social paradigm shift. So it's showing a shift of trend. So it's a fact that this country will look way different in 2 years from now. So like what that's going to be, there's so many clues, right? There's so many different, but we still don't know. Nobody knew. Nobody thought, the big thing is going to be that 9/11 is going to happen. Like nobody knows. We don't know until it happens. But still, the most valid thing is to prepare, is to expect the unexpected, prepare for the unexpected, be open to the bliss that divinity can bring to your life, to that, this ultimate comfort that we can actually tap into by connecting with our, innermost purpose, by connecting with divinity, whatever that means to you, and if you don't know what it means to you, it's a good time to ask. It's a good time to tap into that and to put out the inquiry and to ask, cry, demand, whatever, like whatever works. Like if being nice is not working, sometimes you gotta step it up, Sometimes you gotta be a little demanding because it's your life. And it's like if you're dealing, especially like with Krishna, he likes to be the hero, So like this is the God that I'm most in touch with as far as my personal life. Everybody has their preference, and that's great. But like, let's say if you're dealing with Krishna, he's dramatic. He's a dramatic guy.
Yeah.
And he likes
That's putting it mildly.
Yeah. So he likes the drama. He likes to be the hero. So it's like, if you haven't gone to him and asked him to help you, like in a personal way, like do that. Like that's the next thing. Like that's like.
And he'd rather you come to him than anybody else.
So he will respond to you, and it could be fierce. It can be an ultimatum. It could be whatever you need it to be, whatever, because it has to be coming from your heart. It has to be from really where you are. This is not, some people think, oh, well, he knows everything. He should just help me. Yeah, but okay, we're neglecting the fact that this is not his personality. Maybe for other gods that works. I don't know. Like, I don't have personal experience. I know. My son is super into Jesus, and like his whole thing is like Jesus is helping him every day. God is helping him every day, and that's not really Krishna per se. And
they're really big into prayer. They're really big into prayer. Yeah, exactly.
Even beyond prayer, because prayer may sound too formal.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah, I mean, I'm just giving an example though.
No, yeah, for sure.
But talking.
Just talk from your heart. Don't think that you have to be, dress, look, feel even a certain way. It's just where you really are at the moment.
Yeah, and I mean, especially when you're dealing with Krishna, he just wants love,
right? That's another
more than anything else,
yeah.
and you can't do that if you're fake.
Yeah,
and that's why the sincerity part is really important.
Yeah, and you can't do that if you're holding back either. Anyway, like maybe you don't call it fake, but if you're like, oh, Hare Krishna, being all like pleasant or whatever, or being, like, but then in your real life, you're like, stuck in so many ways and you're not going to him, then, what's he going to do? It's like, he can't do anything because you don't go to him. He wants us to go to him directly. He likes to be the hero. If you don't believe me,
just try it.
Just watch Krishna book or read Krishna book or watch the Mahabharata or watch what's the Gopal Krishna. Like it's and then try it. Obviously, try it. The ultimate thing is to try it. But in case you forgot that about his personality, refresh yourself and put yourself in the shoes of any one of those people. This is what I like about Mahabharata so much. What I like is that is the chance to put ourselves in the shoes of these people who are far from perfect.
Yeah,
like so many flaws of different degrees, and they're put there as an example for us because of that. These are people who had regular association, regular direct, his neighbors, just regular people. Just people, and he wanted to be there with them. He wanted to be part of the experience and be in it. This is our connection. This is the essence of it, and for us to take that point and to apply it to our everyday lives is everything.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true.
So we got a little. Did we get to the whole story?
I think. Well, that's important. I mean, we covered the story.
Right,
I mean,
we
got him separated, and I just
and then
and so Rahu. I've noticed, this is something that I've noticed, is that Rahu. What of the I've done about, Jesus, I don't really know, but like maybe 500 to 600 charts, maybe, I don't know, maybe more. But of those, and of those, a good sized portion have been spiritual people.
Mm-hmm.
And of those spiritual people, 80% or so really took spirituality seriously when they were in a Rahu time.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so, I mean, you know, some people think, oh, he's a scary demon. And he kind of is, but a lot of things he does are because he's trying to put you in a certain space.
Right.
You know what I mean? He's trying to, he gives certain, either, Rahu tests you through either temptation or sorrow. Those are the two things that he'll give. Or maybe sometimes both at the same time.
Right.
But that's how he deals with us.
I was sorry.
Oh yeah, but he gives through either those are his parameters. They'll either give you temptation or some kind of like, you know, overwhelming sorrow through loss or some kind of, you know, situation where you feel, you know, all kinds of ways that he does his deal. But it's either with the carrot or the stick. But he wants to know how you're going to react.
Right.
And he'll show you parts of yourself that you're neglecting through those implements. Because some people, you know, they go through the Rahu phase and it's just all, you know, cream. But then what's happening, you know, is they get addicted to certain things or their life goes and they become really ultra famous. He does that. He uses that test a lot. He'll give you like ultra famous. And then, you know, what are you made out of? When you have super success, are you going to uphold your ideals or are you going to just like slide down and do all kinds of stupid shit, you know? Mm-hmm. And he does the same thing with the trials too. He'll make really intense situations because he wants to know what you're going to do. There was this one, there was a really interesting, there was like this philosopher guy. And he said, why does orange juice come out of an orange? And all the disciples were like sitting around. And finally a little boy was there and he said, because it's in there in the first place. And he said, he knows. So the thing is that Rahu squeezes us because he wants us to see what's in there.
Right.
So that's what he does. So the way he squeezes us depends on us, you know. So he'll squeeze us and he wants to show us, like, okay, this is what you got in there that you're hiding.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I actually got into spiritual life in my Ketu.
Oh, well, he's the, you know.
Yeah, it's like one or the other oftentimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the you know, same thing. Like Rahu is like the outward spiral. Mm-hmm. Ketu is the inward spiral. So both of them have that element of kind of going in circles. You know, usually whatever you get in Rahu, you don't leave with it.
Yeah, that's why I always tell people not to get married in Rahu.
Yeah.
It's gonna go away.
And if it's in the middle of your 20s and 30s, you know, consider another path. You know, I mean, so you know, like it's just because of the temporary nature, and it's not like you can't have you. Obviously, it's meant for you to do good things, great things. No period is meant for us to suffer mindlessly. Like that's never the case. It's always for something. It's always good for something.
Yeah. I mean, my Ketu phase was really intense. Like that was really intense. But, you know, I learned and grew so much from that. I really, you know, there was a time period when I was in my Ketu where I was always thinking about the past. And I was like, if only I had a time machine or something like that. You know, I'd go back in time or. Right. And the fact of the matter is that, you know, at this point, I realize everything in my life has a purpose. Right. And there's a reason that they happen. And at this point, I've just come to terms and actually peace with what happened. And I actually would, if it meant, if the suffering I had, not having that suffering meant I wouldn't be who I am, but I don't want to give up what I gained. Yeah. Through those trials, you know.
Yeah, it's like it's a delicate balance. It's a little bit, you know, crazy to even say it. You know, it's like we're supposed to, or we're meant to, or we're most fulfilled when we accept that life includes suffering, and when we're okay with that, and not like to be martyrs or to be victims unnecessarily or nothing like that, but to be okay with, this is what this planet is the 50-50 planet. We're smack dab in the middle of creation is the idea. Whether you can ask whether that's true or not for yourself or your own story, but like that's what I understand. So we understand. Um, so there's the 50-50 balance of pleasure and pain, enjoyment and suffering. This is what it is. So if we can accept that, we can actually, have inner pleasure even in our pain. And that's the essence of this planet, is this duality. So it's kind of like the sooner that we accept that for every single good thing that comes in our life, there's going to be something bad, and for every single bad thing that comes into our life, there's going to be something good, the more sooner mental health is going to be available to us.
Right.
Because this is the essence of the thing. Like this is why we're all distorted, and so many people have so many mental health issues, and is that we have unrealistic expectations about what this life is. And again, this is so it's so central to right now, and to Rahu Ketu. A lot of mental issues, you'll see it in the chart as far as like where Rahu Ketu is, like the combination. Because if that could be obsession, like Rahu can turn into both of them can turn into different kinds of obsession, and just distorted views. Rahu is the head without the body, so it wants to take in more than it can digest. Like, yes, it's the thing. And then not hear instruction. Like most of the time, people are in some Rahu period is like taking in guidance is very hard, because there is still that demoniac, tendency there. But that's part of us. It's not to like diminish that or to say that that's bad. It's a part of us that is present. That like
it's the shadow side.
The shadow side. So it's still it's that part of us, and then K2 is the headless part. So it's like he said, you kept thinking about the past. It's like not enough mental capacity to look forward and make decisions, because everything in your life wants you to just like kind of shut down. I went through K2 in the middle of my 20s. Like so it's outer world shutting down to a certain degree, to be able to do this internal work that is rough. It's rough, it's rough. But that's also when I saw my guru for the first time, when I had my own, I grew up in, bhakti, but I had my own, I was not really into it until 28, 29, like 14 years ago or whatever, like or even less than that. I was 42. Anyway, whatever. That around that time, I had still 2 years or 3 years left of my K2 period. And that's when I met my guru, and it was a real turning point in my life. That if I had not been introduced, like I would have really thought that I was like if I had not been introduced to the chance of seeing my life in a philosophical, metaphysical way, because at the same time I got into astrology, like it just opened up my whole life. It opened up my whole world to This is for people who are in Rahu Ketus too. It's like it's very easy to think Rahu Ketu periods, whether it be the Mahadasha or the Subdasha. It's easy to think that like, what am I doing here? Feel hopeless because there's no straightforward path as far as material road goes. It can
You
often
almost feel
feel
like you're like in a bubble and the whole world's going on around you, but like you're like trapped in the bubble
right,
and you can't even participate in it.
right, right, exactly. So there's something else that is beyond this our own bubble and beyond this thing that is very accessible because remember it's the unseen world that is being activated. So it's like the veil is lifted. That's the idea. It's the veil. The veil is being lifted. Like Rahu Ketu is like the veil, like what they consider the veil.
Right,
so
right.
it's like the veil is very different than the veils over there. The veil's right here. You can begin to see through it. You can begin to try to see. And that's the opportunity that we're being given right
now. So I think that's good.
Yeah.
Oops, that's pretty much like almost an hour. Anyway, thanks for listening.
Yeah.
And
please give us your feedback. Tell us what you think about this kind of format. The longer videos.
And share it.
Share the videos. Tell us about your experiences with Rahu Ketu. Anything else that you want to share as far as being in the Mahadasha, being in the Subdasha, or even eclipses? What things have you seen happen with eclipses? We'd love to know.
Okay.
See you later.